and they need to win the game. But you're 2-0 up, you're 3-1 up, play your positions, just relax. McTominay's bombing off everywhere. Now, look, you're getting credit for scoring a goal, and you've got to half give the team credit for wanting to score goals all the time. But as a way of winning a big game in Europe, it just wasn't disciplined enough for me.
Owen, how much of the blame? It's hard to pick out individual players, but Onana didn't have a great night again.
No, I mean, there were huge moments in the game. And, obviously you think back to the Copenhagen one where the 2-0 up, Marcus gets a red card, and then the game kind of changed. Today, obviously, they were in control of the game. The mistake from Onana. I mean, the thing is, they've scored 3 in Munich and lost. They scored 3 in Copenhagen and lost. And they scored 3 here and didn't win. I mean, if you would have said before that you'd score that amount of goals and you wouldn't win the games, nobody would ever believe you. So they're scoring enough goals, but they're making mistakes which you can't make in the Champions League. So that was a brilliant game of football, and they played well in moments. But they're conceding soft goals at the moment, and that's just you can't do that in the Champions League, Laura.
How are they going to take this game? So Old Trafford, Bayern Munich, last game of the group. Bayern Munich, who have been brilliant in the Champions League and all have already qualified. Can you see them beating Bayern Munich?
At this point, no. The only thing that might help them is the situation because Bayern Munich are through. You'd expect it to be probably a weakened team from Bayern Munich, but still, their weakened team is a top-class team, as Owen will tell you. The manager, I'm sure, obviously a bit of history in England, he'll want to go to Manchester United and win. I'm sure about it. And I think Bayern are potentially one of the teams that could win the competition. But for United to beat them at Old Trafford will be difficult. They're capable of it, don't get me wrong, but they've got to cut these mistakes out. They've got to play with discipline at times as well. They're just not doing it.
It's so bizarre, isn't it, that we give compliments to. They're like, that game, as we said before, was so symptomatic of Manchester United in the Champions League so far this season. How can one competition be so different to the other?
Yeah, I think it's hard even for the players and for the manager, for the fans, because they've been consistent. In the Premier League, they haven't been consistent in this Champions League. And I just think the quantity of goals they're conceding, you're going to struggle to get through into the next round. But there's still, obviously, they can go back to Old Trafford and put on a performance. The amount of goals that they're scoring, though, you think they can do it. Just cut out the mistakes, and they've got half a chance. So, I mean, as we said before the game, they're must watch. And obviously, every game at the moment in the Champions League is like this.
Absolutely is. Let's just have a quick confirmation then of the table. This is what Group A looks like after that game. Don't forget as well, we've got Bayern Munich. They're facing Copenhagen later on. That kickoff is at 8 p.m. tonight. And Manchester United, once again, sit bottom of the table there. So it's all going to be on tonight because ultimately they could be out by 10 p.m. to keep watching TNT Sports, and you'll be finding out exactly what sort of state Manchester United will be in at the end of the day. We're going to hear from him very shortly. Manchester United went to hell and relived a recurring nightmare, dropping the league once again, twice within this game. Look at it though, at times, it was absolutely breathless. 16 shots for Galatasaray, 17 shots for Manchester United, 6 goals all in all. And a really familiar story for Manchester United in the Champions League this season. It's not desperately or definitely over right now, but it could be at 10 o'clock tonight. And that's if the game in the group, the other game in Group A, Bayern Munich, if they lose that game, that means that ultimately Copenhagen win, Manchester United are out. But look, let's talk about game management, because it feels like we are doing it a lot with Manchester United, especially in the Champions League. What's going wrong?
It's back to that game management, as you said. It sounds like a broken record. I feel like I've been saying it for years now, that the lack of leadership. You think of the experience you've got in the team as well, Laura. You think of Lindelof at the backs, played for Sweden. Harry Maguire played for England for so long. You just said to your central midfield, the centre of the pitch was wide open. It was absolutely wide open. People just running through it all the time. And when you're 2-0 up, Harry Maguire, Lindelof, Scott and Amrabat, stay here. Don't go anywhere. Almost similar to what Newcastle did last night. In a difficult situation. But that's the way, you're always going to get chances. Manchester United, with the pace they've got up front, they will always get counter-attacking chances. But just make sure you're solid. And it was end-to-end. It was a game they didn't need. After being 2-0 up and 3-1 up, it was absolute madness.
Amrabat was one of the changes as well, and Erik Ten Hag still bringing him in because he's got more experience. When you're talking about that game management, who's more at fault, the manager or the players on the pitch?
Well, no, everybody is in that moment. I mean, obviously, I think the subs will probably get some criticism just because at that point they were completely in control of the game. But that's the issue. United don't really control games. Even on the weekend against Everton, I know they played well. They had less possession than Everton. Today they had 42% possession. You know, Scholes is right. You're 2-0 up. Just play deeper. You know, you're in the lead. You don't really need to be high up the pitch. So I think that is a huge thing they need to address. When they concede one, they tend to concede another one. You know, they did it against Galatasaray in Manchester. They did it, you know, in Copenhagen. They did it in Munich, and they've done it again tonight. And that's something they need to address. Be a little bit more compact. Man United are at the best on the counter-attack. Play a little bit deeper, get 2-0 ahead, and play. It just felt like it was there for them today, and they let it out of their grasp. Rio said it in commentary, and he nailed it. You know, that they had that, and they let it go.
Let's see where it started to unwind, starting with the first free kick that Hakim Ziyech put away. Talk to me about the positioning of Onana and whether or not this could have been avoided.
Well, it definitely could have been avoided. The keeper could have saved it. But I think Fernandes should be behind the middle of them, the middle of the two of them. I think there's too big of a gap. They're obviously going to get out of the way for the lad to score it. But I do think Icardi is clever. You see him, he ducks, but he does go right in the line of the goalkeeper. But as Owen said, it was fatal to me. That left-hand side was fatal. He has to cover that side. There's no doubt about that. And
this one?
Well, what can you say? Again, it's a terrible mistake again. That I'm not sure what exactly he's trying to punch it away with his right hand. It's a weak. But he makes people nervous. I think he makes his defence nervous. He makes the whole team nervous. He makes simple saves look really, really difficult. And look, it's testing the nerve again. Near post. Look, we'll have goalkeeper experts on who probably know more about this than us, but again, I don't think he should be beaten in the near post, and I think his position is poor. So, for me, all 3 goals are down to him.
I mean, first of all, that's a brilliant first touch and finish. I think the second one, so if he misses it, it's just going to go in. I think on that one was the same. So his technique is, we don't know anything about goalkeeper, but his technique looks.
Everybody just looks awkward.
Slightly unconventional.
Yeah, unconventional. Good word.
He is the Erik Ten Hag signing. So does he take ultimate responsibility for that, Erik?
I think managers ultimately do have to take responsibility for the signings. It's a shame to that because in the last few weeks in the Premier League especially, he's starting to look okay.
He's been really good.
Yeah, he's looking a lot better still. As Owen said, making unconventional saves. And it's the Champions League where it's been a real struggle for him. I don't know why. Is he too casual? I don't know. You see him there having a little smirk to himself. I just think he's a bit too relaxed. I don't think his concentration is all there for a goalkeeper. Concentration is the most important thing. And
you must we spoke at the beginning of the match before it even started about the occasion and how, as a professional player, you go and you feed off these kind of environments and that kind of pressure. Is it different for a goalkeeper?
Yeah, I think it's very different. I think obviously there's more pressure. Obviously being a goalkeeper, I think at Manchester United, he's played at some massive clubs. You know, Ajax and Inter, and he's done brilliantly. Played in some huge games. I think he's obviously got massive confidence. But obviously he's made a couple of mistakes, and maybe they're weighing on him. I think the ones with those free kicks, people in front of him, he can't really see the ball. He anticipates getting a little flick. So I think there are things he could probably tidy up quite easily with the goalkeeping coach. You know, technically. I'm sure they could look at it.
Sorry, Owen, you think of the other team as well, thinking, watching the goalkeeper, and he's nervous, he's all over the place, think, we're just going to shoot, we're going to cross the ball, getting the ball in and around him. He looks like he's going to concede every time.
Is that what we saw with the equaliser? I know you're saying it was obviously brilliantly taken as well, but is that what they started to do? They thought, look, we see a weakness in him, we're just going to start shooting from all over the place.
Well, that's the issue you can have. I think he can make some world-class saves. We saw that last season with Inter, but those simple ones that are bouncing in front of him, you know, we saw what in the first game against Bayern Munich, and then obviously again tonight. That's something he's going to have to tidy up. I don't think it's a hard fix, but obviously when players see that, they're going to keep doing it time and time again. And obviously he'll know that they're soft goals. He's a much better goalie than he showed tonight.
That was a breathless game. You've just come out of the dressing room. What's the overriding feeling in there?
The dressing room because of the doping control, so I don't know. But obviously it's really bad. We conceded really bad goals. I think we have to take control of that situations in all of them. We on top of the result for twice, and we had far too many chances to score another goal and have the game closed. But we're not clinical enough.
I could see you just watched one of the free kicks that Hakim Ziyech took go into the back of the net, and I could see from the look on your face that you're extremely disappointed with that. How do you explain both of those occasions when those goals went in?
I have nothing. I have nothing to explain. We concede the goals, and there's nothing to do now. Obviously, we could have done better in that 2 goals, but it is what it is.
How difficult did the game become to manage? Because every time Galatasaray scored, you could sense that the crowd found their voice again. And we know Manchester United have had leads in previous matches and let them slip away. Were those scars becoming to return mentally in the game?
No, I don't think so. Every time we conceded a goal, we had many chances to score again. I think at the end of the game we had like 4 chances to score a goal, but we have to put our heads up and understand that sometimes it's about to find another pass, find the player that is free, trying to get the best one in the best position, and not taking the chance ourselves. We have to look for the team first and after for ourselves.
Was it just another game then where there were too many mistakes?
No, it was another game where we could have closed the game before. We had too many chances, as I said, and obviously it was two mistakes by ourselves on the goals we conceded.
And when you think about Manchester United's future in the Champions League this season, if it comes down to another game like this one where you've let leads slip away, how much will you be kicking yourself as a team because you've had it there in the grasp of your hands to win these games?
Well, it's too bad, to be honest. I don't want to be too much negative, but for what we've been doing in the Champions League is not enough. We have to control our games every time. It's not the first game we have like this. Even Copenhagen with I understand we had 1 player less, but we scored the 3-2. We have to secure the result. We have to understand that in this kind of games, in this kind of stages, you have to be smart enough and manage the game better.
How do you do that then? What's the change? What needs to be done?
Oh, it's many things. It comes from everyone. Everyone has to step up. Everyone has to take the responsibility on their own mistakes, and we have to look forward to the next games now and see what we can do to go through. Obviously, now we don't depend only on ourselves, but it is what it is.
Thanks, Bruno.
Thank you.
Okay, there you go. Bruno Fernandes picking up on the fact that there were a number of chances, a number of mistakes. Owen, a lot of those chances came quite late on in the game as well, didn't they?
He had an interesting choice of wording when he said we need to pick the open person, and he's the one that does that all the time. He did it on the weekend against Everton. He did it earlier for Garnacho, and they had so many chances. That one I don't mind from Garnacho. He has every right to take that on. But this one from Scott, maybe can he slide in Anthony Martial there? I know they're little things, but sometimes just playing the extra pass. Dallo did it brilliantly when he came on. He created 3 or 4 big moments. That one from Palestri, just slide it, Scholes. They're huge moments in a game.
Yeah, look, Bruno's clever enough to do that. I always say before a game, we need him up in that position, that number 10 position, where he can